107.5 The Game Podcasting is sponsored by Modern Exterminating, a family-oriented company. Professional, honest, and dependable pest control solutions. We're your one-stop shop for all pests.
It's always a pleasure to be joined by the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. He is Greg Sankey. Appreciate the hosting duties as always. How are you?
I'm well. I've talked a lot, but you know what's nice about digital drive, as we now call it, there's just a little bit more space than when we were in Hoover, right?
Yeah.
You're not squeezed in.
Well, you remember the old Winfrey? I think it was what we joked a few times. A lot of people in our business are loud.
Yes.
And so at times that becomes.
I had one of those over there today. When I was doing it. Was with a microphone, not a headset.
Yeah.
Whoever was next to me was having a heck of a time.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy. All right, we weren't going to start you with this, but then the news yesterday, and I don't want you. I'll just preface this: we're not going to have you judge the decision, but Indiana has bought out their home and home with Virginia, and they've replaced them with Kennesaw State and Eastern Illinois. What message might that be sending, and what concerns might you have about something like that?
My concerns are that it ties into the CFP selection process. And if teams are judging the access point as to accumulate simply as many wins without regard to the rigor of a schedule, that diminishes the regular season. And it's not the first of these circumstances we've seen. It's the latest. We have schools thinking about that reality. Generally, those who've scheduled 2 additional non-conference games. We have a mandate that you have at least one. It also limits the comparatives between leagues, which is, in basketball, one of the easier elements is there's so many non-conference games. You have this really robust base of data to make judgments in addition to conference performance. So those are a couple elements that come to mind.
See, I love that you mentioned the comparatives between leagues, because that's one of my biggest gripes when we get into college football playoff, season, where they're getting the rankings coming out. A lot of the discourse is this conference being better than this one, and we can compare numbers and stuff all day, but when we have something to compare with on the field, I think that it gives everybody a clearer picture, makes the job on the decision makers significantly easier. Jay and I this summer have talked through a bunch of different scheduling scenarios, and one of them was if there was a way to maybe for every conference in the Power Four, you have to play one school in each league, and that way you get us a larger sample size. We know these are just simply sports talk radio hypotheticals, but with someone in your position, what's, I guess, maybe the hurdles from something like that happening, or is something like that happening remotely possible?
Well, there are examples of just 2 conferences trying to agree on scheduling, and that's never worked. In 2021, our colleagues in the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten announced an alliance that included scheduling. Excuse me. So that's an example of 3 trying to do it, and it didn't work. So the historic indicators are not great. I also think you have to keep in mind college football is still a developmental game. The NFL is performance-based. You can be cut in the locker room after a game on a Sunday afternoon and replaced on a Monday. At college, we're there, and you're trying to help young people adjust from high school football to the speed of the college game. So having some room for something other than what you've described in non-conference scheduling is important. You then have home game numbers, which relate to financing, and budget numbers that are impacted by that. We've had conversations primarily with the Big Ten about should the conferences just go ahead and schedule. And that doesn't generate a lot of positive passion in the room, like go do it. It generates interest. But I think in our current kind of conference siloed decision-making that nobody's running to that idea.
We're talking to the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey. Obviously, we primarily cover the Gamecocks, Greg, but Shane Beamer made mention, Virginia Tech right across the plaza here in a few weeks' time. Clemson, obviously, annually. Home and homes coming up in the next 6 years beyond this with Miami, NC State, North Carolina. So that'll be 2 Power Fours plus the SEC. Could be 8, could be 9. When you see South Carolina doing it, you know what Bama does, you know what Texas does, you know what Georgia does. What are the conversations like about, hey, I'd like to see some of you maybe try to follow some of that? How much pushback do you get? What are those I know you can't take us always behind the closed doors, but what is your position in some of those things?
A program is going to have different priorities at a certain time, and all credit to Shane for that scheduling. Georgia, I think last year benefited from that 10 power game schedule. They had a couple of losses, but still attained a 2 seed in the playoff. The year before when we expanded, they lost a game with Oklahoma and ended up 5th. So those things can have impact. And I think people have to understand the model that was thought about with the CFP was I got to be in the top 4, so I have to have all these wins, I have to finish at the top of my conference. Now you may be looking at spots 9, 10, 11, and 12. And what can you do to distinguish yourself by comparison to another team? So the question and the observation about somebody dropping a non-conference opponent. Well, if you've got 10 quality games and have a substantial record being compared to somebody who walked away from those games, that should favor the team playing the tougher schedule. That's part of the clarity we need out of the CFP selection process. And we've encouraged more of those games. Now, if you're Mississippi State this year and you're Jeff Levy and you're reforming a program, you had all of the coaching change, that may not be the right direction for you. Their game with Arizona State will be a big game.
Okay.
They could perform well. That's one of those comparatives. Adding another one is you're rebuilding may not be in your best interest. So I think you have to allow some flexibility for priorities.
And mentioning the CFP selection process kind of leads me into this. I know this is a sin I have certainly committed in the last several months, is making the assumption that we're just jumping to 16, right? And you made it pretty clear on Monday that that's not necessarily the case. Like, discussions are still ongoing, but when it comes to discussing like future models of the college football playoff, like the one model that got a lot of attention was like the 4-4-2-2 auto bid type format. But when you look at, like the 5+11, that could certainly significantly benefit your conference, just because I think if you expanded it this past year, you're getting 3 more teams in because they were on the outside looking in. How much is that a part of your personal decision-making for this league when you're in the room with those other commissioners and kind of duking it out and trying to decide what to do in the future?
When we went to our spring meetings in Destin and presented, I think we had 3 or 4 different alternatives. Your analysis resonated in the most significant manner, which is if we just take 4, we might have 6 or 7 of the 16. Why should we just take 4? And there's some thought about playing games, but you're still going through another SEC game to reach what somebody else is accessing with a lesser schedule. So it is central. I look at, just picking numbers and then defending the why is another factor, the credibility factor. If there's a year where somebody else deserved more and we only deserve 3, I actually think you're striking at the credibility of not only your own conference but of other conferences. And I think we have to be careful about our demand and our concerns about lack of clarity in the CFP selection process overriding the right kind of judgments around those sort of issues. So I think there's a couple of factors to be considered.
December 1 is the date that Disney would like to know what you want to do, all of you, with the CFP format. Is that maybe a date as well for the Southeastern Conference in terms of a scheduling format? How intertwined are all of those factors?
Well, they're intertwined, but we need to decide before then, in my view. I've used as much time as I can, so we're nearing a decision. We would announce 8 or 9. Announcing the schedule is now a December function for us. We've done that kind of during that open week post-championship before the playoff begins now, and have had great interest in our schedule release show. So the actual schedule would work with that December time frame. We need to pick a format before.
All right. We got to get you out here on a couple of fun things. First off, if you put a number on it, how many times between you and Commissioner Slive do you think Catherine has sat at a table next to you and waited for schlubs like us to talk with you?
Let's say there's 10 times a day times 4 of late, 3 with Mike. So that's 30. You're probably nearing 800.
Wow.
A quick estimate.
Does she get a bonus?
No. So I read a Red Auerbach biography, when he was the Celtics coach and GM. And one of his philosophies was there are no bonuses for the Celtics when they had that great championship run. And his observation was, I'm paying you well. to do the job.
Right.
So
All right, and I'll set you up. I'll let Elijah give you the choices. I spoke with you when you were with Herb Vincent downstairs. I told you we'd probably give you our start, bench, drop. We know you like old school music, and I've heard you do some of those things with other stations. So our start, bench, drop.
Yes,
it's rock and roll.
Yes, we want to get 3 unique sounds, similar era but unique sounds. So there's some differentiation here. Steely Dan, America, The Doors. Coincidentally, 3 of my maybe 5 or 6 favorite bands of all time.
those are my 3 options.
Yeah, you got to start one, bench one, and one says sayonara.
I'd start with Steely Dan.
Good call.
I enjoyed the America stuff, but somehow it would be wrong to drop the Doors given their significance for America. So I would have to put the America they would be benched.
They get dropped?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, dropped.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's great to see you. Thank you. Do we know where we are next year?
We do not.
Is that Catherine's choice?
No.
No?
It's up to me to make up my mind.
All right.
Get the right kind of information.
Thank you as always.
Yeah, thank
we
you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Good to be with
Have fun the rest of the week. He's the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey. This is the postgame show.